Today I am going to be discussing the case of Steven Zelich, and he was dubbed the Wisconsin Suitcase Murderer. On June 5th, 2014, there was a road crew that was mowing the sides of the highway in rural Geneva, Wisconsin. And they came across two different suitcases. And they were pretty horrified to find that there were two women found in each of these suitcases. Both women had been gagged and bound with rope, as well as they were at different levels of decomposition. And some parts were actually even mummified. The police did start searching the area to see if there were any other suitcases or remains, as well as they did start to try to find out who these two Jane Does were. They did have to weed through a lot of reported missing persons, and they would have to compare all of those missing women to the very general descriptions of these women, since that's really all that they were left with. One of the Jane Does turned out to be a 19-year-old college student from Oregon, Jenny Gamez, and they were able to identify her through dental records. And she apparently was not in contact with her family. The other woman turned out to be Laura Simonson, and she was a 37-year-old single mother who lived in Farmington, Minnesota. And she was actually identified a little bit more quickly because she had tattoos, as well as a friend of hers did report her missing. Now, this friend also did have her passwords, which turned out to be very, very helpful for the police in being able to get onto her computer and determine that both her as well as Jenny Gamez were both using a dating site that specialized in BDSM. They were also both communicating with the same man, and this man called himself Mr. Handcuffs, and he was looking for a 24/7 slave that he could have complete ownership over. So as luck would have it, there was an employee at a hotel that remembered seeing Laura there. So when they were seeing, the news and seeing that these women had gone missing, this employee came forward and said that, yes, they do remember seeing this woman. And they also remember that she checked in, but she never checked out. They were able to then retrieve the video footage, and they could then see this man who didn't want to sign in to the hotel, and as well as he ended up paying cash for the room. There was also video showing him leaving the hotel and wheeling out on one of those trolleys Laura's suitcase. So Mr. Handcuffs turned out to be Steven Zelich, and he was born in 1961. And the police were then able to track down where his apartment was in West Allis, Wisconsin. And they did put a tracking device on his car, as well as they had immediately started surveilling his apartment. Then when they actually did run into him, he invited them in. He did admit to communicating with Laura, but said that it was just a fantasy, that they had spoken, but they had never actually met. He was willing to give up his DNA, and he allowed them to search his computer. They did see that there was a software on the computer that would clean it, and they saw that this program had ran tens of thousands of times. The results came back showing that his DNA was actually on the rope that they had found tied around the women. And with this, then they were able to get a search warrant for his apartment. And what they found was a lot of cleaning supplies, even though his apartment was caked with black mold. Nice. They also found a suitcase that was full of all sorts of torture type devices. And then they found a police badge. And so apparently Steven used to be a police officer. A woman also did come forward. Her name was Jamie Bates, and she apparently was a roommate of Steven's, and she recalls him telling her that he had told her that he kept a girl for 7 years, and he would put her in a crate when he would go to work. So this kind of falls right along with that whole 24/7 slave thing. So when he was a police officer, his superiors ended up having to call him in and question him because there were complaints that he was using his position to harass exotic dancers as well as prostitutes. And he denied that and then promptly quit. And then after that, he became a security guard for a corporate headquarters company in Milwaukee. At one point, he then had to be talked to again by his boss, but this time it was that there were complaints being made that there was a smell coming from the trunk of his car, and it smelled like there was a dead body in there. So his boss told him, you need to get this taken care of immediately. So it is at this point that he ended up taking them and dumping them off on the side of the rural highway. On June 25th of 2014, the police did bring him in, and they did inform him that he was under arrest. Now, he was still wearing his security guard uniform, as well as was carrying mace and a baton. And everybody acknowledged that he was still wearing these items, but the officers wanted him to trust them, so they did not ask him to give those items up. He did begin telling them the story, and this spanned between 2012 and 2013, starting with Jenny. In August of 2012, he had asked Jenny to come from Oregon and be his slave. So they were at a Quality Inn, and they were engaging in breath play, which is basically controlling her breath by choking, gagging, that sort of thing. And in this case, he was actually using a rope. And he claims that that is how he accidentally killed her. He did end up taking her to his apartment and leaving her in the refrigerator for a year. He then eventually decided to move her to the trunk of his car. When he started talking to Laura, he was telling her that she needed to do things to make herself disappear. So she needed to sell her van. She needed to close accounts, get off social media, so that she could not be tracked down. And Laura even did say to him, you could kill me and nobody would ever know. So in November of 2013, that is when he had met Laura at that hotel that had gotten the video footage. And again, he said that he accidentally ended up killing Laura as well. Now with Laura, he ended up keeping her in the trunk along with Jenny. And he kept them in there for months until his boss had actually started complaining. With Jenny, he pled guilty for first-degree reckless homicide and ended up getting 35 years in prison. And then with Laura, he pleaded second-degree murder and got an additional 25 years. So, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and I hope you have a great day.